Hey guys, so I've got another story here from Hard Left. He seems to be quite full of them. So I'm going to get right into it. Hey y'all, it's me again, Hard Left. You already heard the story about how I got that handle. I don't think my paw has forgiven me yet, but at least I didn't run the hog fence down and I learned my left from my right. But I haven't told you about how I got the scar on my knee. Well, actually the scar is pretty easy to tell about. It's where the doctor had to cut me open and fix my knee. It's the why he had to do it that's a little more complicated. So here goes. Me and a couple buddies of mine were sitting at Taco Bell one night and we got to talking to this old boy that sat down next to us. Turns out he was a coon hunter from the next town over. He got to bragging on his coon dog about how it was the best coon dog in Tennessee. Well, of course we couldn't let an out-of-towner come in and talk disparaging like about our coon dogs. So we set up a time to meet a couple of weekends later and see whose dog was the best. We agreed on a holler that was the dividing line between his county and ours. We figured that way there wouldn't be any home team advantage. There was just one problem. We didn't even own a coon dog between the three of us. We hadn't really considered that when we let our hometown pride get our mouths to talking ahead of our brains thinking. Truth to tell, it wasn't the only time we had done that, but that's another story for another day. My Uncle Luke did, however, own a coon dog. One that was figured to be a right smart dog. In fact, most of us figured the dog was even smarter than my Uncle Luke, but we weren't going to tell him that. As soon as we finished our burritos, we headed straight for Luke's place. Once we told him about how this fella from the other county had been running down Star and saying his dog was better than Star, Uncle Luke was ready to go hunting. Star is what he called his coon dog. Kind of a strange name for a dog, but then again, Uncle Luke was a strange guy. We didn't figure the dog's name would have any effect on her hunting abilities. Well, the big night came and we were all a little nervous when this fella from the other county actually showed up. We had kind of been secretly hoping that he would back out. There were rumors about strange things taking place in the area down there where we were supposed to hunt, but we weren't about to back out at this point. When he unloaded that coon dog of his, it didn't make us feel none the better. It was a right good-looking dog compared to Uncle Luke's hound. But we had been hunting with Star quite a few times, and we knew she was pretty good at treeing a coon. Once we had looked at a map and agreed on where we were going to hunt, we turned the dogs loose and listened for them to get the scent of a coon. Pretty soon, sure enough, Star started baying, and we knew she'd found a coon. Of course, we could never be 100% sure because on several occasions she had found a skunk instead of a coon. The other feller's dog started baying right along with Star, so we all took to running through the woods to where we figured they had treed that coon and hoped it was a coon instead of a skunk. When we got there, it was a big maple tree in a real thick part of the bottomlands. We showed our lights up in that tree, and sure enough, it was a big old he-coon, one of the biggest we'd ever seen. That's when we heard it. It was the loudest and deepest scream I've ever heard, and it didn't sound nothing like some of those panthers we had running around in the woods in that area. That other feller whispered, "That sounds like a Bigfoot." Now, I don't believe in Bigfoot. Never have, because I've never seen one, but I've sure heard enough stories about them back up in the hollers of those hills. Right about then, I was wishing I had just kept my big mouth shut back there in Taco Bell. That thing screamed again, and it was closer. We looked at each other, then back towards the crashing noise we were hearing coming closer in the woods. None of us wanted to cut and run in front of this feller, what brought the other coon dog, because we knew word would get out about who cut and run first. It seemed like we stood there staring into the dark for what seemed an eternity, but it probably wasn't no longer than it took Uncle Luke to scarf down a burrito. And believe you me, that ain't long. Whatever it was coming through the treetops fast, and we were starting to see trees swaying as this dark shadow swung from one tree to another. Suddenly, the dogs that had been so distracted by that old he-coon heard this thing too. They must have got a whiff of it too, because they suddenly tucked tail and headed back to the truck faster than you could say scat. The next thing we knew, that dark shadow was right there in the top of the big old maple tree, and it started breaking limbs out and throwing them at us. It screamed again and snatched that old he-coon up and was gone just like that. I had had enough, and I didn't care who was there to see it. I was getting out of there. I turned around and run, and that's when I realized everybody else had already left. I was by myself. Well, I lit out of there like there was no tomorrow. Truth to tell, I wasn't sure if there was going to be another tomorrow. that dark shadow was screaming again, and it sure sounded like it was getting closer. That's when it happened. I forgot all about the creek we had crossed on that big old fallen tree and ran right off in the bank. It was about 8 feet down to the water right there, and it was deep, but not quite deep enough. I hit bottom kind of sideways like and messed up my knee. It took me a couple hours to hike out real slow on account of my bad knee. I never did tell no one, but in a way I was kind of glad I had fallen in the creek. It helped to clean up the smell that was coming from my pants. I still ain't no believer in Bigfoot, because I still never seen for sure a Bigfoot or whatever that thing was clear enough to say what it was. Maybe it was just a panther, but I ain't so sure. And you signed it again, Hard Left. Well, Hard Left, I sure appreciate you sending all those stories in. They're pretty good. If any of you guys like it, give him a thumbs up and send them some stories of your own. We'll put them on the channel. That's going to do it for tonight. Y'all have a good one. As I'm sitting here by the fire, I'm listening to the crickets and the cicadas. Maybe you can hear them as well. And I'm remembering back in my early childhood when my mom would either read or tell me stories. And that's probably where my love of a good story came from. And it's not whether the story is true or fiction, it's just about the quality of the story. It's about telling your story. It's about listening to a good story. So that's what this channel is dedicated to. And in particular, cryptids, Bigfoot, dogmen, things of that nature. If you have a story that you would like to tell, that you would like to hear told on this channel, send it to my email address. Send it to campfirecryptids@gmail.com. That's campfirecryptids@gmail.com. And I will do my best to get your story told. And if you want to stay anonymous, that's okay. Not a problem at all. Like I said, this channel is just simply dedicated to good stories. So send them in.